We back, baby. That's a double. Don't ask me how. Out of the All-Star break, Warriors Kings. Before we get to that, I want to talk a little big picture about what's going on with the team. You know, there's so much talk about prime. Prime Steph, prime LeBron, prime this. He's still in his prime. He's no longer in his prime, right? And by definition, you know, the prime of an athlete is a crossroads. You know, when you're 23, 24 years old, that might be your physical prime athletically, quickness wise, right? But then 28, 30, now maybe you have a little more strength. You might not be as bouncy, but you're a little stronger, right? And so that might physically, maybe it depends on, you know, the type of player in your built. But we've heard about Steph Prime for so long. And someone on Twitter had pointed out, you know, high top Steph, that the year that we didn't win, right? When those down years, that might have been Steph's prime, where the crossroads of his strength, he got so much stronger. He still physically was in his prime, and it crossed up with his skill and his experience. You know, but there, you know, it's subjective. People have different views of that. And they say basketball is a young man's sport. It is, right? You look around the league at the Thunder and the Cavs and the Celtics and these teams where these guys are all in their primes, you know? But watching the game last night and how they finished off this Kings team, what dawned on me is the advantage that the Warriors do have. Because they may not be in their primes, but our big three all are only interested in one thing, and that's winning. Now, a lot of teams are going to claim that, but let's be honest, that's just not the case. There's contracts to be had. There's stats. There's accolades to be had. When you look at Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph, what I'm watching are three guys that don't really care about their stats. They just want to win. They just want to prove it. They just want to get to the promised lands again. And I think that that's a massive advantage against a lot of these teams where, yes, they're going to always say that. They know what to say. But the reality is there's hidden agendas buried in all these teams. But when your two or your three most important players, your veterans, your leaders, your stars are all on the same page with one goal truly, that has a trickle down effect throughout the roster. And I think we're seeing that with this new look Warriors team. Most of you have probably heard of Bob and Brad. If you haven't, you should. They are the go-to physical therapists on YouTube, over 5 million subscribers, over 60 years of combined experience. I stumbled across their channel years and years ago, and they're my go-to whenever I'm nursing something or I want to learn about my body. And now a couple months ago, they had sent me one of their massage guns, and it's become a staple in my routine. I use it daily, but now I've got a new toy. It's the big boy, the D6 Pro Plus from Bob and Brad. This is the most powerful massage gun on the market for various reasons. I also believe it's the most versatile, starting with a 90 degrees of adjustability in this pivoting head here, where you can really just dig into areas that you can't get on your own with this adjustability. Now, when you get the plus version, you're going to get the heated tip, which is crucial for warm-ups, right? I use it in the warm-up and the cool down. It depends on what I'm doing here. But you see this big handle here. And again, it allows for adaptability with the pivoting head, but also if you were to use it on a client or another athlete or loved one, because you have this giant handle, you can really dig down and get into the tissue at a professional level. But not just that, because the handle is so big, you get 2 times the battery life. You've got an OLED screen here, right? You've got like 6 different speeds. Look at this thing. Now this is as quality as it gets. Let me turn this off here with the mic. But you got 4 built-in routines, 6 different speeds, complete versatility, quality. And if you're looking for a massage gun and there's so many different options, just go ahead with the Bob and Brad. I completely co-sign it, and I use both of them now here. This might be my new one, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I guess it depends on the size and where I'm traveling or if I'm at home, but I use both of these, and I can completely co-sign the quality and effectiveness of these guns from Bob and Brad. So click the link in the description and use the code Bob and Brad 6 to get 10% off the D6 Pro Plus now. Now, Jimmy, still not in shape, right? Still doesn't have his legs. How could he? Where was he, in Dubai over All-Star weekend? And you know the saying, the only way to get in shape for basketball is to play basketball. And so Jimmy still hasn't played that much basketball, and it makes it even more impressive what he's doing without the lack of lift in his legs right now. And he's just giving you timely buckets, timely scoring. When the Kings went on one of their few runs last night, Jimmy gets in the block, drop step spin move on DeMar, scores a basket. Steph sits the final couple minutes of that third quarter. Kings trying to make a little push. No. Let me get to the line a couple times, right? He's picking his spots, and then those baseline drives, kicking out to threes, he's filling up the stat sheet. But I think more importantly, what you're seeing, what the players are telling us, it's the juice, it's the aura, it's the belief. This team looks so much different, right? And I had said in today's breakdown, I can't remember a Warriors team mid-season like flipping and looking so much differently since the We Believe season. Now, some of y'all weren't outside for that one, right? But we trade for Stack Jack, Al Harrington, and you're like, whoa, this team is like way different. The personality, the way BD and JR fed off those two. And, you know, the mad scientist Nelly. Anyway, we don't have to revisit history, but it's been quite a while since I can remember a team just flipping and looking so much different than they had with one, albeit a big move, one move essentially, right? But let's talk about Mojemski. Mo and Pods continued to get the start. You go small against Sacramento, and you're just seeing them. It just seems like all of a sudden they're just clicking, right? They're clicking within the offense. And back to Jimmy and what he provides, I think one of the major things that he's really helping with Moses and Pods is an inside-out attack. So when he kicks it out to these guys in the corners and on the wings, the ball, obviously the ball is coming from inside the paint, so the closeout angles are easier to attack. They're easier to attack. It's more basic, fundamental basketball, and I think that that's helping them. And then Pods is like in the matrix offensively lately, right? Like he just is making these timely cuts. Whenever you need him, he's there on the cut, and then you're seeing him find his rhythm and confidence with his shot offensively, that sputtering jab step three ball where he kind of rocks you to sleep, getting to his left hand. And it's just super encouraging to see a night like last night where Steph, you know, he was just a part. He didn't have to carry. Buddy, we have to acknowledge Buddy, right? Is it the long hair don't care? If he's going to play like that, he's got to leave his hair out. But he made the extra passes, and the shots started to fall for him. And it just feels like we're starting to cook here with maybe the perfect storm at the perfect time with these things, right? And again, if you can have more nights where Steph can just be a part, right? He had 20, 6 of those were cosmetic at the end of the game, right? When it was already done for, and he can just distribute, draw the attention. Then when there is a big matchup, then we can get the chef that we want, right? And he'll be rested, and he'll have his legs and the juice to do that in the big moments. And so it just feels like a much more balanced attack. And there's just a swagger to the team, right? And I knew the Kings were in trouble when Steph snatched that ball from Keegan Murray on the glass, pushed the ball, finds Draymond for the layup, and then starts barking at him. I was like, yo, we look different right now, right? Draymond is back to 6. Hey, you know what Draymond is sniffing? He's smelling that Defensive Player of the Year award, right? Like that's the reality of it now. And now it's a real possibility. AD is not eligible. Wemby will not be eligible. So now who you got? It certainly better not be Rudy Gobert, right? Could you imagine if Rudy got it again? Draymond would crap. I'll tune into that podcast. I'll tune into the Rudy getting the DPOY over Draymond again this year. But no, yeah, man, I don't know how you can't be encouraged and excited from what you've seen with the others kicking in, letting Steph allowing Steph not to carry so much of things, right? And just how it's being done. And this Kings team, right? You knew they would make a run, but what struck me was how quickly we stomped out the run, because that knockout punch was delivered in the third quarter, right? The Kings cut it to single digits. Jimmy bucket, Moses 4-point play. That play was crazy. To me, I do want to speak on that for a second here. So Moses releases the 3, points at the ref, has enough time to look back and see the ball in, right? And maybe Steph's got to start doing that for the call, right? Maybe that's the new wave. Instead of the ghost riding the 3 and leaving early, maybe let it go, tell the ref, hey, and then watch it go in. That was crazy to see. And you see DeMar get the high. I'm not going to go into the bad calls because it didn't matter, right? The Kings, you could tell, were kind of outmatched from the jump from this new look team. Both the teams have new looks, And you look at Sacramento, I don't like the recipe, bro. I don't like the recipe. Like, I understand that not DeMar, De'Aaron, it is what it is. He wanted out, and so they had to move him, right? But you look at their roster, they've got one defender that plays in their rotation in Keon Ellis, and he's a small one. He's an on-ball guard defender, right? And then you look at DeMar, you look at Zach, Keegan, and Monk. I know Monk has been, moonlighting as a point guard and a playmaker. He's been pretty good at it. But all four of those guys are shoot first gunners. And then Sabonis, who can't defend or protect the rim. And then you add Valanciunas, and so their transition defense, like, as fun as it was last night, we have to acknowledge how bad the Kings defense is. And look, I know they're going to have nights where they just run people off the floor, but credit the Warriors defense for not allowing that and taking advantage of it and just keeping the foot on the pedal is what I loved most about it. Because, I admit it, when it was at 18, I think Fitz alluded to it, right? We're up 18, 17 headed into the fourth. I was ready for a wire job. Like, I was confident we were going to win, but it was like, they're probably going to knock like 14, 15 points off this lead and it'll be a wire job. And I think it's super important for our big three, our vets, to not have as many wire jobs down the stretch. A win's a win, I get it. But if the young guys can contribute and they can keep their defensive intensity up where you can cruise and coast to some of these games, again, they're going to have way more for these big matchups like the one against Dallas where you got to win that one. Well, they're putting Andre's jersey in the rafters. You got to win that one. Plus, it feels like we owe them one, right? I also want to bring up Quentin Post, right? I mean, he is a legit rotational big man. I know people like to complain about Dunleavy, past decisions. Listen, no one's going to bat 1,000 at these, right? But if we're going to complain about some of the misses, things that we did or didn't do, we got to give him credit for Quentin Post because he is a legit rotational big man. And is there anything more fun than when he hits his cellies after bombing threes, right? And you saw him and Valanciunas. He outplayed Valanciunas. Valanciunas put him in the basket one time, but he held his ground pretty well. And you saw Steph in the bench like, that's all right. That's all right. We want that. We want that. And listen, I like Trayce Jackson-Davis. I do. I'm glad that we are able to bench him right now because they kind of just gifted him the starting spot. And you got it early in the year. It's like, he's our young guy. We need more athleticism. Like, let's nudge him ahead. And it became pretty clear, like, he needs work, right? He needs work on being more dynamic as a finisher and specifically offensively. He's got to add more and be more dynamic ways to finish. And in handing him that starting spot, I don't know if that happens. But now that he's out of the rotation, this summer, you would imagine Trayce will be highly motivated. Like, again, I'm rooting for him, but he's going to have to add to his game offensively if he wants to stick in the NBA and be a rotational player. He'll stick in the NBA. He's a good kid. He's big. He's athletic. But like, if he wants to be a rotational guy, he's going to have to put in work this summer. Quentin Post is going to force that, hopefully, right? And so QP's cooking. But yeah, man, as jumbled up as this West is, we're climbing the standings already. And then you look around the Lakers, we'll see. I know that, Luka will get right. I'm sure he'll have a big game against Dallas, but that's not looking as they would have hoped yet, right? Phoenix is just, man, you want to talk about done, right? They've lost 7 of 8. And so I'd heard someone else bring this up. When you look around the West, we play well against the Thunder. Denver's always going to be a problem. We know who Memphis is. Ja, I don't know what's going on there. That'll be a talk for another time. But as jumbled up as the West is, I don't think that it maybe is overpowering as it once appeared. And if we can get into the right spot and continue to play the way we play, I don't see why we don't think we should have a chance in this Western Conference. Now, getting out of it, that's all you got to worry about. I had said this a few weeks ago. Never mind the chip and, could you beat Boston? Could you beat Cleveland? One of these teams. Like, you got to worry about getting out of the West. But more importantly, we got to worry about getting into the West, getting into a playoff spot where the play-ins, as you know, like, if you're one of those bottom seeds, you don't have any rest, any turnover time. It's designed for you to be at a disadvantage, even if you get out of the play-in with the way the schedule is. So ideally, they climb out of the play-in. And then in this wild, wild West right now, man, it feels like anything can happen with the new juice and look of this Warriors team. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.